So I hope you get what I'm saying about this. You know, sometimes our problems are pretty simple to solve. And again, it's like most of the time we're the problem. Something that hit me really quick when I woke up was people with problems all have the same problem. They think it's not them. You know, so it's like everybody who's got problems, the only problem is they think that the problem isn't them. Like, even if you're in a horrible situation, like the problem is always your mental battle between what should be happening and what is happening. And I think that's kind of what the Buddhists are trying to get at. It's like you need to accept what is happening. And if you can accept what is happening, even if you're in a dungeon, you can achieve some small amount of peace if you can accept what's happening. And I'm not saying that that is easy. I'm just saying that, like, you know, acceptance is a big part of a lot of the mental trauma I think that we put ourselves through, is that we're just resisting reality. We're resisting what is and becoming obsessed with what should be. That's how you decide how to act. To me, that's kind of what the chart is trying to do here with this relationship between making the crown the root of the next level. You make it real, and now that's just what is. That's part of being. You know, that's part of the world. Wow, I've been ignoring you guys. Sorry. There's some cool, interesting questions in here. You know, so where are you standing regarding the state of the world today? Any tips that can be valuable for us? Damn. We were talking about that earlier with, you know, this issue of like political stuff and how to reconcile your spirituality with, you know, and be able to talk about politics in any way that's not going to just melt people down. And my suggestions in that realm is just like I said earlier, when trying to talk about these contentious political issues, you know, I try to boil things down to fundamental principles first, without getting too deep into it. Like maybe the gun rights thing is a good example. It's like, maybe it's not. I'm suddenly hesitant. The whole gun rights argument, it does come from something I talked about the other day, which is property rights are an extension of the notion that you own yourself, that your body is yours. And if you can own your body, if your body is yours, then you can own other things. And then it's a kind of beautiful way it kind of dovetails, because if you own a body, you assume that you have the right to protect it. If you can own a weapon to defend yourself, you can own a weapon to defend other things that you will claim ownership to. And then we have society on the outside trying to, somebody says they own this, well, let's have a jury of your peers, like figure out if that's the case. You know, so the gun rights debate, if you want to get at this foundationally, you have to talk about property rights and self-ownership and the right to self-defense. It's not about bump stocks or any of these, you know, you start talking about the little details of gun registration or you know, all these things. It's like, do you believe in property rights? Like, to me, you know, I don't know if they've thought some of these things through. And I think sometimes if you would address some of these more complicated things that people are just, you know, ready to murder each other over, you can try to boil them down to some basic principles so that you can say, well, look, we can agree to disagree, and you can take it out of the sphere of guns and just make it about ownership. Then to me, you're getting somewhere, because then you can really talk about like foundational principles. And whether or not people realize it, all of their beliefs either come down to foundational principles or they don't. Well, it's like, I believe in gun control because I want to keep children safe. And it's like, well, who doesn't want to keep children safe? And I think that's where we get with a lot of political discussions, is we get into that kind of realm where, but don't you care about children? It's like, well, of course, unless you're a monster. And yes, there are monsters out there, but it's usually good to not assume that somebody's a monster first. You know, they'll show you if they're a monster or not, but it's usually safe if you want to get along with people and you want to have community. It's usually safe to assume that most people are not monsters. Maybe 3% of people are psychopaths, you know. And yes, you could be dealing with one, but you'd have to discuss some things to sort of figure that out. And you know, in terms of tips for dealing with the world today, yeah, but also everything spiritual that we've already discussed, because I really believe this is a spiritual battle. It is a war, and I think we need to sort of approach it with that level of seriousness. And we do have to arm ourselves with truth and wisdom. We do have to be able to identify if we even know what our foundational principles are. I feel like a lot of times you'll be arguing with somebody and you won't even realize, and I think this is more and more common, that the person you're arguing with doesn't even believe in reason or truth. This is a sort of a common theme today, that everybody has their own truth, that there's no objective reality. You know, I'd love to talk about that at great length with anybody who disagrees, but you can't reason with somebody who doesn't believe in reason. You know, and I feel like people will sometimes try to hide the fact that they really don't believe in truth, that it exists, that it's an objective thing. Even though our entire scientific sort of corpus is built on this idea that you can test it and get the same results, and if the science is solid, I can test it too and get the same results.